Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do the beer stuff here. Excited for today's review for a couple of different reasons. One, I'm not really all that nasally or stuffy from my previous sickness, a la getting hit with a ton of allergies. It's been raining all day. I think that's kind of tempered a little bit of a sinus reprieve for this dude. The other reason, blast from the past time. Look at this thing. Yeah, W.E. Weyerbacher. It's their double Simcoe. This beer is kind of like, it's got like a little kind of soft place in my heart. Weyerbacher was like one of the first like craft breweries I was really kind of like drank a lot of because I lived in Easton. That's where they're located. And I used to go there all the time before they even had a tap room, go over there, grab beers all the time. And Double Simcoe was kind of ahead of its time. It was one of those kind of big, kind of boisterous, kind of hop forward beers before that was really a super crazy popular thing. We're talking early aughts, even before like New England hazies kind of went all crazy and stuff. I think it wrote the book on Cat P. Simcoe. I don't expect it to be that way now. We'll see what happens with it. But Simcoe used to be like straight up like cat pee, rakey dink, cat pee, oniony filthness, and I really dig that about the hop. But it's kind of been bred out of pretty much all hops now. They kind of view that as a negative, I guess. So it's kind of been bred out of all of them. So I'm kind of curious where this beer lands. Plus Weyerbacher, they've been, bought and sold and bankrupt like 47 times now. So I don't even know. I'm sure they're using the old school recipe, but again, ingredients change, all that stuff's changed. Anyway, I knew they released it. Released it probably about, 2 months ago. Yeah, it's exactly 2 months ago is the can-on date for this. It wasn't something I just wanted to drive down the brewery to get, but lo and behold, today I had to go get some straw for an aminals, and I had to pop over in the PA, and I saw it, a little bottle shop, and I was like, I don't mind if I do. So let's dive into it. What does it actually have in a can? It says Weyerbacher. I mean, it really is W.E. Weyerbacher, but we'll go with what most people say. It's a double Simcoe, West Coast style, double IPA, 9% alcohol by volume. On the bottom it says Savant Beverages. I believe that's the new conglomerate that might own it. Here we have pours amber and packs bitterness with a heavy aroma of stone fruit, citrus, and pine. Balance prevails from a malty backbone and clean finish. Double Simcoe is our incredible reward to our hophead seeking the intense hop flavor and a double IPA without the harshness. I don't remember this being 9%. Simcoe is a registered mark of Select Botanicals Group, LLC. I'm actually going to, do the most boring thing in the world, which is actually look up old Double Simcoe and see. See where it kind of lands. Because I know it was retired. Oh, let's see. I'm going to have to click on images because I'll probably get all updated stuff. Okay, here's the old label. I cannot read that. That's the old S label. This is... I don't see... We have an ABV. I'm sure it probably is. This is 9% on not the OG old school label. Let's see. No, the OG old school one was 9% too. It's all the same info, so that's pretty cool. I don't remember it being that big of a beer. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to dive into it and see where it kind of lands today. It's just, kind of cool to see it come back. Because I believe what happens was they just kind of let it go. They might have released it, actually, the whole recipe for home brewers to brew, that kind of thing, and then just let it die, and they brought it back. This actually calls out like a West Coast IPA on it. The old label really just says, India Pale Ale brewed with Simcoe hops. Label-wise, it's alright. I'm not going to sit here and say I love Weyerbacher's whole Jester thing. I think it's a little cheese, but label itself isn't too horrible, so we'll give them that. That looks like an old school West Coast IPA. I remember it being this color. I don't remember it being this hazy. I could be wrong, but I mean, back in those days, a beer this hazy, especially a West Coasty, would be kind of weird. So it has that rich amber in color, off-white colored head, so it looks the part of a big old Westie, albeit a bit hazy. Let's see if we can get a nose. Yeah, it it has this West Coast pine characteristic, not overly resinous. I'm not getting like any precursors of overt bittering or overt sweetness. Kind of hard to believe at 9% in a double Simcoe beer, but it lacks that cappy thing. I mean, that would be just the first thing kind of jumping out on the aromatics on this, and it just isn't even there in any form or fashion. It really does come off as like a Maris Otter Crystal Malt based beer with a West Coast hoppiness, old school C kind of hoppiness, not necessarily Simcoe. And that's pretty much it for, giving this to me blind. Have me give this whiff. I'm guessing this is, pushing 6% maybe, or even might go like a little old, a little oxidized. I doubt that's the case here. I think it's just a classic old school beer with West Coast bittering. We're going to dive in, see what's what. Cheers, y'all. That is bitter. I kind of remember it being like this. It lacks that cappy, which really, really is disappointing. But it has this big, bittering resinous to it. Very hefty, very dense beer. It's not going to be confused with being turbid, like fluffy or creamy kind of turbid. More of just a really kind of dense thickness to it. The bittering here comes off like that classic Simcoe, a bit of kind of stone fruit, a little bit of underripened tropical fruit. I mean, it really is all about the resinous, piney bittering on this. But it just lacks that ranky onion / cappy thing, which I was hoping to hope would exist. But again, like I said, it's more of a breeding thing with the hop as opposed to the actual recipe of the beer. It's kind of just lost it completely. Man. It does bring back memories, I will put it that way. And honestly, it's for a West Coast 9%. I would call it triple IPA, not double IPA, but we'll stick to what they're calling it. It really does deliver. It really does deliver. It's not overly sweet, which is one of my favorite things about it. I mean, you could easily under attenuate this beer, have this beer come off purposely even a little bit overly sweet. But what you're getting here is, like, you can see I'm smacking my palate. It's just drying out, and it's bittering and drying, and it's doing what these classic old school West Coast IPAs did so well. But also, you have to remember, we're dealing with super high ABV here. We're dealing with 9%, and it's drinking fun. It's super fun. I like that. I like that a lot. Dangerously like that. At 9%? Yeah. I mean, it is just one of those things where, obviously, my memory's going to want to kind of shift back to what I believe this beer originally was. Time, your palate change, everything changes. So it's not like I was going to, even if I got the exact same beer, brewed the exact same way with the exact same ingredients the way they were back then, I'd probably perceive them a little bit different. But I can't help but just miss and almost like reminisce about just that cat pee. And again, I don't know how many times I can say it during a review. Maybe this is the world record for saying cat pee in a YouTube video. But that was the trademark. That was the tent pole. That was the thing that this beer really, I think, was pretty much unmistakable for everybody. And I think, like I said, it was almost the original script writer of that tasting note, of that description of Simcoe. But to see how far this hop has kind of changed and morphed, and how they've caressed it and moved it to something that's a little bit, bittering and resinous, just lacks that component to it, is pretty damn interesting. It's almost, I wish I can go back in time and grab an old school bottle and do them side by side. That would be just the most awesome thing ever. But I dig this, man. I really, really do. I really do. From an old school kind of West Coast standpoint, sure, it's a bit hazy. It's a dense beer. It does have a little bit of silkiness to it, so it's not coming off what I remember it being as I wouldn't call it crisp and clean, but a little bit more tight and tidy. It's a little bit more softer than that, but it still comes off as this kind of filthy, dirty, muddy, kind of big old hazy. Not hazy, big old resinous thing that happens now to be hazy, but it takes a really well done malt base, which to me it just screams of crystal malt maris otter kind of combo kind of thing. Probably something different, but that's what it comes off for me. And then just throwing that dose after dose after dose of this Simcoe and the way it kind of lives now, and that stone fruit, tropical fruit, not overly sweet and kind of fruitiness with that big piney resinous. It's more resinous than piney, icky, sticky, kind of touch that pine tree, kind of that feel to it, as opposed to a squeaky clean kind of West Coasty. But it really does come off in a very, very fun way, in a very, very fun fashion. Kind of glad I picked it up. It was a little bit pricey. It was pushing $20, but I was just too intrigued by it not to pick it up, and I'm glad I did. It's definitely a treat. I will be drinking one of these today, not more than one. This is a little bit too big of a beer for that, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it's a really cool return, albeit a bit more of an homage than a complete replicant of a beer that I really dig back in the day from a brewery that I've had very long ties to, and I'm glad. I'm very glad that the old Weyerbacher is delivering a bit of goodness, because as much as their beers have gotten a little bit older, stagnant, whatever word you want to say, breweries like this need to stick around, you know, and hopefully they do now. Hopefully they've gotten their whole act together, and they keep making fun beers, and stuff's just shutting off behind me, and we get to enjoy them. So there you go. Let's talk about it. W. Weyerbacher. Have you been to the brewery? Have you been to the brewery since they reopened the tap room this last time? I haven't. Probably went there about a year ago before they closed. Just popped in, had a couple beers. But have you been to the brewery? Have you had a bunch of beers? Have you had the original Simcoe? Have you had this new version? Have you had both? Let's talk about it down there. Very interesting to see what people think about this beer, especially if it's something that they dug back in the day. So there you go. Reviewing the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Yeah, hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of this beer right now. Or any Weyerbacher's. Hope to see you next time. Cheers, y'all.